Recording. Okay, got it.
Yes, just
Okay.
just popped up.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mindful You and Midwest Chapter AI EI equals a better you webinar. And I want to thank Raleigh Carlson and Kathy Collins for really doing a phenomenal job in getting the information out to everybody. Raleigh was gracious enough to allow other people outside of the chapter to attend this webinar because we had a lot of interest and so we're going to take these next 30 minutes and it's going to be a whirlwind. It's going to go quick. We're going to go through what this means when we talk about artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence. So for those of you who are on the call, just please mute your phone. If you have a question or comment, hit the chat box. Stacy will be taking care of that. And then we're going to ask you one quick poll here in a couple minutes, just to ask you where you're at. So, quickly, you're going to, excuse me, you're going to hear from myself, Rick Ladendorf, and Craig Marshall. We're known as the Monk of the Mastermind. There are a lot of people that know who we are, some that don't. But just a quick overview: I started America's Healthiest Clubs 13 years ago, and I've interviewed thousands and thousands of people, and I feel like I've really got a good pulse on what this industry is and where the problems are. And as Raleigh Carlson could attest, I've done a lot of things to see how to solve problems in this industry. And I can honestly say that the Mindful You is probably the most appropriate, most rewarding program that I've created in this club industry. And we've been recognized as the Boardroom Magazine Educator of the Year in 2022 and considered industry influencers. And just very quickly, I want to say that, what we do is very, very unique in that when you talk about emotional intelligence, there are a lot of educational programs out there that speak to communications and empathy and that sort of thing. But we drill really deep into this concept and provide principles and tools to help you become better managers, better leaders, and better people. And so some of the organizations like CMAA, you'll be getting credit for attending some of our workshops and that sort of thing. Some of you have seen us speak before. We're a content partner for the PGA magazine. So if you're a PGA professional, that's a big deal because we work directly with their general managers, and I think there's 2,500 PGA magazine managers. We're partnering with Troon. They've got 800 clubs and 28,000 employees. And this is one of those programs that we're going to be providing to them. PCMA, we've embedded a lot of our content into their organization. And then last but not least, Boardroom Magazine, we're actually incorporating a lot of our content into some board level videos that speak to the collaboration between the board and managers. And if you're not familiar with the Boardroom Magazine or the Boardroom Institute, I highly encourage you to look at that because this is a great way to help improve communications with your board of directors and committee members. But when we look at the industry, and this is coming from thousands of conversations, we hear everybody's busy. And if that would be the first response we hear from anybody, which is, how you doing? Oh, I'm busy. Well, that busyness, if it's chronic, will definitely create stress, overwhelm, and a lot of drama within the organization and unnecessary drama that creates a lot of time issues, being able to deal with that. So, but it really all starts with, I think, at the top. This is by far the most dysfunctional industry I've ever been part of, just the way it's organized. You have the owners of the club are also the board of directors, and to treat somebody and keep them entertained 24/7, 365 days a year is a challenge. So it's dysfunctional, but there is some function that we could put back into it. But because of that dysfunction, that we see there's a lot of unsaids in the boardroom and the communication between general managers. And one of the areas that we find big problem with is boundaries. So, for example, a general manager might not necessarily have a conversation with the board talking about how many hours they should work or when they should be seen and should they be at every single event, every weekend, every party. Well, there are some board members that think that you should be seen. Well, but in reality, that's a boundary that is definitely not appreciated with the board, and therefore it just trickles down. So department heads then find themselves feeling like they need to work 60, 70-hour weeks because the general manager is. and it's not sustainable. And that obviously goes to what Jack was saying earlier. Good morning, Jeff DeCrive. How are you, sir? But what I see is work-life me balance is sort of the language we use because we all hear that work life is the issue. But the point is we just don't spend enough time on me. And that's what this is really all about with this emotional intelligence. So how can AI and EI, emotional intelligence, help? So I'm going to launch a quick poll here. Quick question on AI. Let's see if this works. Launch this. Okay, it's not launching there, Stacy. That's not launching. Stacy, can you hear me?
Sorry, I can hear you. I don't have access to it.
Okay, well, it's not allowing me to launch. Oh, shoot. Well, I was going to ask how often you use AI, and the answer was always, occasionally, or haven't used it yet.
And let's
But
drop that in the chat. Tell me in the chat.
there you go. Yeah, if you could just drop it in the chat, just if you've used AI often, always, or never, just throw it in there. That way we can kind of get an idea. But I can already tell just by our introduction, there are many of you that have never seen it or used it. So we're going to do a
Always,
great
never,
demonstration.
often, occasionally, rarely, always, not
Right.
yet. So it's across the board.
Right on. Well, for those of you who don't know what it is, we've heard a lot of things, of course. And this is when asking Chat GPT, I asked, what is artificial intelligence? And it says it's machines or software that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. And this includes reasoning, problem solving, perception, language, understanding, and learning. That's a powerful statement. There's a lot of depth to that. But the reality is, once you see it in action, you'll understand how it can be used. And there's 1,000 ways we can use it in the club industry to save time and that sort of thing. But many of you might not even understand what emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence, this is their definition. It really goes to the EQ, and it refers to the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and reason with emotions, both your own emotions and the emotions of others. And it's a key aspect of human intelligence that impacts many areas of life, from personal relationships to professional success. Well, that makes sense, and that's mindfulness, and that's a lot of different definitions for it. But the real question is, how can AI help you become more emotionally intelligent? Well, we know for sure that it helps save time, it saves time. It'll improve relationships, help you connect with others in more meaningful ways, make better decisions. All of these are the true benefits of using the tool. And we use it every day in our business. And we've used it with many of our clients. In fact, before I end my little 10-minute intro, and then I'm going to kick it over to Craig, and then we're going to do a demonstration of what it is and how it works. But Peter is a general manager in Michigan who I sat with for 1 hour. And his biggest problem was he wanted to create an employee orientation plan. So we went into AI, ChatGPT, and we asked it to write a 90-day orientation plan. And it completed the whole thing with sections and indexing and descriptions. And it was phenomenal. But he said, no, I want to make it a 14-day plan. So we changed it to 14 days. And within 1 hour, we were able to create the structure of an employee orientation plan that he has been putting off for decades. I shouldn't say decades, months. Gary, another general manager, had an issue where he needed to rewrite the employee buyback I'm sorry, the membership buyback clause. And they spent 4 board meetings trying to create the language that they can use and insert into their bylaws. Within 30 minutes, Gary and I were able to write the bylaws exactly what he wanted. He presented it to the board. The next meeting, it was accepted without exception, and the lawyers accepted it because it was written in a legalese. That saved him tremendous amount of time and frustration. Rob, another general manager in Florida, he had an issue with a jeans policy, and he needed to figure out what he was going to say to the membership about jeans and the wearing of jeans. So he actually imported his entire bylaws into ChatGPT, asked it a few questions, and it came back and told him exactly what he needed to do. And he said, Rick, that saved me probably 30 hours of my time. Lonnie, another general manager in Florida, said to us one day, we introduced it to him, and within 10 minutes, he went online and he wrote a letter to his mom and dad telling them how appreciative he was for their support over the years, and he wouldn't be where he was without them. And it wrote a one-page, very heartfelt letter to mom and dad. Mom and dad response was immediately, "Who is this? This is not my child." And it was amazing. It brought tears to my eyes. It was so amazing. And so I'm sharing this with you because there's so many uses for this, and we're going to show you how to work this the program. But Craig, I'm going to turn it over to you because I think that the real issue is programming the program.
Well, I think the challenge with all of this is the basic challenge we all have in life, and that is we don't know what we don't know. And so, putting in some basic questions to ChatGPT, or I have several of them, it always amazes me every single time. And so I typed into ChatGPT in the beginning, how can I use AI to make myself a more intelligent and emotionally intelligent leader? What are some of the main benefits of being more EI, emotionally intelligent? And it came back with, it said, well, there's three basic things. One is emotional analysis. Get this. AI can analyze your communication patterns, your tone, your facial expressions to provide you real feedback on your emotional state. Then it talked about virtual coaching. You can ask it any kind of question. And then it talked about data-driven insights. So there's lots to it. So one of the things I put in there, I hope none of you have ever had this challenge, but I wrote, how can I upgrade my relationship with my wife? Because she believes that she's frustrated that I'm not doing enough around the house and I don't see the things that need to be done and so forth. And we both are busy working professionals. And so, that's my priority. And so I'm trying to share her priorities. And so here's what it said to me. And I hope this applies to nobody on this call. I understand how frustrating it can be when your priorities are not aligned with others and you're constantly being told what to do. Has anybody ever heard that? Creating win-win solutions in such situations requires open communication and a willingness to understand each other's perspective. It's important to approach conversations with empathy and curiosity. So I circled that word curiosity. And then I started to feed that into ChatGPT. How can I be more curious about what's going on with her, what her frustrations are? And it started talking about how to actively listen. And it said, it's not about compromising your values or meeting halfway, but rather finding creative ways to integrate both priorities. So I started really to go beyond my old traditional way of looking at things like that. And it was just so helpful to give me little word cues to ask further questions into. And so since I started using this, we have had, I would say, richer, more dynamic, less judgmental conversations. So we're not our old selves doing more of same, because we're all habitual creatures. So we were both able to think outside the box and come up with some creative ways. So we've come up with some list of duties. Sometimes we swap them out. And I explained to her that my priorities are a little different than hers, and we understand why now. And it's really enhanced our whole relationship, which goes back to my view of every problem is a doorway to a solution. Without a question, you can't have an answer. But this is just a tool to break things down. It saves me so much time and gives me such creative feedback on such humdrum daily topics. Next slide, Rick. Because I believe that, I'm two people. I'm schizophrenic in there. I have an ego, and then I have my higher altruistic inspired self, right? So I have to figure out where I'm coming from at any moment. Am I really angry or frustrated or confused, or so I'm just projecting onto others because I'm not able to be cool and calm and collected? And then I manage my attitude and I take a look at my self-talk, and I feed this into ChatGPT, believe it or not. It's like having my own virtual coach. And I say, I'm feeling this, I'm thinking that, but I'm not really at the top of my game right now. And here's the reasons why I think so. It will give me objective feedback. And then I get to maybe the most important thing, number 3. And we had a class just yesterday, and this was a 26-week certification program, and it was the last class. And we asked a lady who's a GM, if you were to describe this whole Mindful You program to somebody who'd never taken it, where would you begin the conversation? Because we deal with so many important topics that they didn't teach us in school. And she said, I think the conversation would begin with unlearning, because we all have a lot of old school beliefs. And like Kelsey was saying before the class started, that she deals with a lot of employees who are older than her, a lot who are younger than her. We talked about unwillingness to work, or the different mindsets of different generations. So we all have to think outside the box these days. So I think emotional intelligence and artificial intelligence can both help us align with not only my core beliefs, but other people's core beliefs. So that's pretty dang important. Rick?
Yeah. Well, we've got plenty of time. Do you want to elaborate on that? Because we have 15 minutes left, and I was going to go into the demonstration, but
no, I would jump into the demo now, because I think we're all going to have a lot of questions after that, Rick.
okay. And the other thing I want to say, for those of you who want to stay after the 30 minutes, feel free. We can talk a little bit more about this and go into more depth. But let's show this tool in action. And let's just say that this particular example I'm going to show is, call it employee development. And we're all doing this as managers or leaders. And basically, I want to use AI to better understand the employee's personality before sending an email regarding their behavior. Because there's a lot of personality assessments out there, DISC, PI, etc. And many organizations use those tools to better understand their organization so they can better communicate with them. Well, this tool has an ability to do just that. And so you don't need to buy a DISC program, because it already is programmed in and it understands what the DISC profile is. So the question that I want to show is should we continue to invest in the employee, or should we terminate? Because we did have a conversation with a general manager the other day, and he told us that he had two employees that he hired that were sort of difficult. They weren't really engaged. They weren't really interested in being part of the team. And many people would say, well, let's hire slow, fire fast. But in this case, he says, no, I want to continue to invest in these two employees. I want to see if they've got what it takes. And over a period of time, they were able to do that. And those two employees have become stellar employees, champions, if you will, in the organization. And it really has helped him to better understand that, sometimes it's too easy for us to just give up and move on and find somebody new. Well, in this case, we're going to kind of explore that in this demonstration. But I'm asking, really, in this situation, what's the best way to communicate with this person now that I understand who they are and I understand the problem? So let me flip over here to a document that I've created just to show you how I do this. So the first thing is, I open up a document, and I just want to reference Jane, and this is her last warning. And so I would draft a question. I could do it in AI, but I like to organize this and then document what it says and then change it, because it's a process. So not just ask one question to get an answer. There's a process, and you have to ask the right questions. So in this case, what I said was, I need to learn how to communicate with Jane, an employee that seems to be introverted, shy, intelligent, and disconnected socially from her team members. Jane seems resistant to share her opinion unless asked directly. When she does respond, she's very defensive and wants to blame others. I need to know the best way to communicate with her to get her to open up. What would you suggest, and how do you think her DISC profile looks? So let me just copy that. And then I'm going to go to get this out of my way here, Chat GPT. And if you're looking for the source, it's chat.openai.com. So we're going to just start a new chat, and I'm going to just copy in here and paste. So as you can see here, it says, I need to learn to communicate with Jane. So just what I referred. Now, when I hit this button, watch what happens. How quickly it does what it does. So one, understand and validate her feelings. That's the first thing you should do. Two, build trust and rapport. And it gives you some examples how to do that. Ask open-ended questions. Makes sense. Avoid placing blame. Provide clear and constructive feedback. Encourage her strengths. Create an inclusive environment. And if you're reading the words, and I will send you this whole document when we're done here, so you can see what in more detail what we're talking about here. But patience, encourage participation. Now, disc profile. Well, she's low on the D, on the dominance. She's low on the influence. She's very high in steadiness. So it's giving you her profile. Now you could go into AI and say, tell me more about disc and the dominance and explain to me what that looks like if you're not familiar with it. So in this case, what I've done is I've actually copied all of that information and I put that into my documents so I can track this. And then, because this is what it just told me, but then I said, well, now that I know more about Jane, rewrite this email to be more mindful and empathetic in a tone that is personal, conversational, and succinct. And what I would have really preferred to write is, Jane, I've been noticing you're coming in late and you've been absent a lot lately. When you do show up, you seem to connect. You don't seem to connect with the team, and they feel you're not pulling your weight around here. Your behavior is unacceptable, and this is your first warning. I've copied HR on this email and expect you to fix the problem. Otherwise, I'll need to start looking for a replacement. Please confirm yours. Now, Craig, how would you feel if you got that email?
Well, anybody who got that email, immediately adrenaline and cortisol would squirt into their bloodstream and they would go into a fight or flight mode, right? And you know why, Rick? Because if you wrote an email like that, you're coming from your ego and it's going to be received by that person's ego. And so the conversation's got nowhere to go.
Right on. And I'm sure if I asked another poll in this group, and if I asked how many times have you written an email like that, and you've hit the send button thinking, oh my goodness, I should have not hit that button, right? Because you wanted to rethink it, rewrite it, take some time. So let's see what AI does, or ChatGPT, and how quickly it writes the email. And if you struggle with if you have writer's block and you struggle with trying to even start an email like this is a great tool to start. Now you can edit and change it, of course. But in this case, it's really saying to Jane, look, I want to meet with you and talk about this further, right? That's all it is. It opens up the conversation. And now the real question is, where do we go from here? And so now I say, well, great. I now have an email, started the conversation. And now what I want to do is I want to ask ChatGPT to write 5 questions to this employee that I can use in a follow-up meeting to help improve our relationship and get them to open up and share the reasons why they seem to be disengaged, right? So I'm going to copy that, put that back into ChatGPT, and this is following a string. So this is a particular chat, and I can rewrite, and we can play with this, but now I just wanted to ask some questions. How are you feeling? So now it's personal. Are there any challenges or obstacles that you've been facing that I might not be aware of as a manager? How do you feel about your current role and what you're working on? Is there anything you feel you need in terms of support and resources to be more successful in your role? How can we strengthen our communication and collaboration moving forward? So what this is showing is how we're connecting artificial intelligence to emotional intelligence, and what we believe are the 2 most important factors affecting leadership in today's world. The fact that we have a tool that we can use to make us more emotionally intelligent. We've got 5 minutes. Anybody want to unmute their phone and ask a question, or maybe see how we can revise this? JJ, I'm going to call on you because I haven't talked to you in a while, and I know you, and I know you're a real, social guy, and everybody loves you, and you live in Minneapolis, and but how do you see this tool? Is this something that have you used this before, and what do you think about this?
No, I've not used it in this form before, but this is really kind of eye-opening and exciting. We all are communicating all day long with fellow employees, rank and file employees, board of directors, members that have issues. So this is unbelievable. You come up with one little paragraph with 4 or 5 sentences, and you've got volumes of information right there to kind of expand upon and learn from. So that's pretty exciting, Rick. Appreciate you sharing
Yeah.
that with us.
Well, and this is just the beginning, obviously, and just, I want to make sure everybody understands that there's more to this. Obviously, in 30 minutes, it's almost impossible to communicate all of the greatness that it has and how we can, utilize the tool, which we do in all of our classes. Any one of our master classes or workshops, we try to incorporate the tool because my role as the mastermind is to really say, well, if Craig the monk is talking about emotional intelligence and has all these years of experience coaching and mentoring people, then the question is, how do we apply this? And that's what I think Raleigh and I have over the years developed a pretty good relationship to say, what is the solution to the problem? Because if we focus on the problem, we get more of that. But if we focus on the solution, that's more about the law of attraction. And so what Raleigh and I have done, if you're in the Midwest chapter or the Illinois chapter with Kathy, or the Wisconsin chapter, we're inviting you to attend our online 8-week masterclass that starts September 7th. And we'll send you a follow-up email on this. But if you'd like to participate, you get 8 continuing education credits from CMAA. And this is really designed to be a 1-hour interactive Zoom program for 8 successive weeks at the same time. And we'll send you the information. You can obviously scan the barcode, right, or the QR code, and get that information as well. But Craig and I are actually going to be on a road show starting September 11th, and we will be in Chicago. So for any of you that are on this call and you feel like you want to come by and spend a half a day with us, we're going to be in Naperville at the Naperville Country Club. And then we have a whole series of cities we're going to be visiting between September and the end of the year. And then, of course, we also offer online workshops, and you can be a member of Mindful You and attend these workshops whenever it's convenient for you. So, so there's a lot more here than just a 30-minute webinar. There's a lot more to it. And if you have any questions or would like to reach out, there's our contact information. We will send you a link to this recording and an email with some more information about the programs as well as the Word documents. So Stacy, do you want to add anything before we leave?
No, well, yes, I'm putting the links as well in case you missed the QR code. So the links are in the chat if you'd like to look at the CMAA masterclass, which participants do get 1 hour of credit for each class, and the roadshow link as well. So there's lots of places to go from here.
All right. All right. Let's go to the Grand Poobah. Raleigh Carlson. What are your thoughts? I know you've got something to say, Raleigh.
Well, the one thought that I had, Rick, after you ran through the examples of AI and what you pulled up, my one thought was when AI provided the questions that you wanted to ask the coworker, would it be a good idea to just send those questions to the coworker, inviting her to an in-person meeting so that coworker could think about the answers rather than putting that individual on the spot before they saw the questions? Idea. Would you see that to be an effective way to do it? So they get prepared, and that even probably demonstrates a genuine desire to want to do it in person and not just do it via an email.
I think that's a great suggestion, but I would also answer with, if you asked AI a little bit more about this person, because people learn differently. Some people like to be, it's audio, or video, visual, audio or text, right? So we learn differently. So maybe you would ask, well, this type of person, given her personality, would it be best for me to do X, Y, or Z? And they'll go down a little bit deeper. So the answer is great suggestion. I would do it that way if that made sense for that individual, but maybe somebody else learns differently, where you know they're not going to read the email anyway. They're not going to even open it up. So why bother?
You know, Raleigh, one of the things about artificial intelligence is it incorporates machine learning. And that means that all of us in the club industry, the more we use it, the more questions we ask, the more specific we are, the more it learns and asks you better questions back. So it's going to get sharper. It's going to help you with generational personality types, all the little details. And as I said before, I think this is a great tool to help us both at home and at work too.
Absolutely. So for those of you who want, yeah, go ahead, Ronnie.
Let me share another thing too, and I'm not doing a commercial for you and the monk, but I think it's more than a bit of genius to link AI and EI together, because if anybody didn't understand it, the correlation between those two is priceless, and you have to understand one without the other. And having managed clubs for numerous years, where in the world was this stuff when I was in my prime managing clubs?
It was in the library, inside of a book. You had to go to the library and figure it out.
What's a library?
Yeah.
Well, for those of you who have to run, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. If you'd like to hang on, we'd be more than happy to sort of dialogue about where we're going and what this tool can do for you. But thank you for joining us. And we'll be sending you out a follow-up email with the information. But you guys have a great day, and we really appreciate you attending. So we're going to keep the recording going.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
So, you know, Raleigh, meetings like this, I think, are really, really important, because I believe that the cool people got to stick together, right? You know, and we have to share with each other. We have to be real and raw and authentic and just throw out what we're going through, because we're all going through similar things. I think no matter what anybody says or how much experience they have, this is a transition era in life for all of us. And it's like a lot of things that used to be nailed down and defined and had some sort of clarity are now moving. And so where they're going, you know, nobody can really tell. So I think this kind of open dialogue and collaboration is really important to support each other. And I think we all have pieces of the puzzle. And so what I love about our class programs is the interactivity.
And, you know, and going back to, I think that it's interesting to me that many people, probably most, don't really understand what AI is. So it's an unknown, but it's a great tool. And then many people, probably most, don't really understand the true impact of emotional intelligence as to how it can help better manage your life, save time, of course, but make us more aware. And being more aware allows us to ask better questions. And that makes us a better person, a better manager, a better leader. So when you take two unknowns and put them together, as Raleigh was saying, it is kind of ingenious, actually. But the reality is it's difficult because it's hard to connect AI with EI. And that's why we went through that example. So for those of you who are still on the call, I see a lot of names here, but I don't know the faces. Does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to share, or thoughts? Have you used AI in a different way, whether it's writing newsletters or emails to board members, if they're acting inappropriately? Anybody want to jump in?
Jack's laughing, Rick.
Yeah.
I know we had a club member who the chef redesigned all their menus in AI, and I'm in marketing, and I like to feel human. So I write my articles and blog posts, but then I put them in AI and ask them to rewrite it. So the range of what we can do in AI is just so incredible. So I highly encourage anyone, just sign up for ChatGPT. It's free. Or you can pay for it $20 a month. And the advantage of getting the membership is you don't have to wait. Sometimes if you're on the free version, you might have to wait for a response. It wasn't a big deal when I was on the free version, but now I'm in the membership. just check it out and just play with
Yeah.
it, because the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. So John Cook, I see you're on the call. Are you still there? Have any thoughts, comments? No? All right. Well, hey, again, Raleigh, thank you so much for putting this together. I'm looking forward to our next step, and I'm hoping that demonstration awakened some people to say, "Wow, there is a better way." So, Jack, any last thoughts? I know you're an interim GM, but I know you told us that you had no idea what AI was. Was this what you expected?
Yeah, this was great. Thank you. I guess I've sort of halfway used AI because I'm Googling stuff all the time. But I guess that's not really the same thing. But this was really interesting. So I'm going to get into this stuff. I already just now signed up um, for your whatever it's called, CPT or whatever. And I'm going to get involved in that and start learning on it because I just saw some good shortcuts. I think that emotional intelligence thing is where I've spent most of my life trying to resolve issues before they happen. But this has been really good. So thanks so much for bringing this to my attention. I'm going to want to be signing up for your classes.
Right on, Jack. Well, good to meet you, and thank you everybody for attending and signing off. We'll talk
Okay.
soon.
Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
See you. Bye, Jack.